Greetings. This is Doc Ock coming to you live and direct today from Black Facts Headquarters Central. We hope everybody's doing real good. Knock on wood. All right, like you knew you should. So, let's get this party started. You know what we need to do today? As always, go ahead and give us a like if you're watching this on Facebook. If you're seeing this on the tube, then go ahead and give us a thumbs up. And then go ahead and spread the word. Let it be heard. Tell all your friends and your family where they need to be. Round about 12 o'clock noon and 9 p.m. EST. Thank you very much. Now, one last thing we're going to ask y'all to do is to go ahead and support our effort to save Black history. Black history has been reviled, rejected, rescinded, reinvented, revised, and now they're just trying to do away with it altogether. So we are definitely in a fight to save Black history. We've been at it for quite some time. This is a mission that our father set out on years and years ago, and our mother worked with him on it. And we're continuing the struggle. So we could use your support. A recurring donation would be great if you could do that. $5 a month shouldn't break your bank. But just go ahead and make those recurring donations, and then that'll be much appreciated. That'll keep some revenue flowing. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to establish a revenue stream, much like J.E. Rogers did. He was never funded by a foundation, a publisher, or any other kind of grant monies, etc. It was all based on sales of his books, his materials. In our case, we're not so much selling the materials as we are providing information for your children, your family members, and yourself to help in disseminating. So we're providing the information and we're letting you do the disseminating. All we need is some support. So we asked you for a couple kinds of support there. You got a number of ways to go ahead and plug in. Meanwhile, let's go ahead and tune up for today with a proverb. Let's see what we have for today. 3 kinds of people die poor: those who divorce, those who incur debts, and those who move around too much. 3 kinds of people die poor. Dang, that's a heavy thought there. Those who divorce, those who incur debts, and those who move around too much. Wow. Now there's a statement for you right there. And that is a proverb from Senegal. All right, so we're going to return to our book. Set it up with the book. Here we go. All we got to do is boom. All right, there you go. And we talked about this article yesterday. We read this article and we used it as a cautionary tale to be careful what you read and who. Be aware of the source. Consider the source. Any information that comes your way, always consider the source. And in this case, it was something I found on the internet. It looked as though it came out of the Negro world, but in all actuality, it was something that somebody put together. It was a paste up job that somebody put together and made it appear as though it came out of the Negro world, but it did not have that connection whatsoever. And so what we're doing is we're reading from Malcolm X's autobiography, so you can get Malcolm X's perspective on his life. Okay, of course it's going to be stilted because it's hit from his perspective. He can't tell you your perspective, he can only tell you his. So we left off, we were talking about his relationship with his mother and his father. I learned early that crying out in protest could accomplish things. No, we already read that. Here we go. Here. He was talking about the children in his school that called him and his brothers and sisters nigga, darky, and rastas. Rastas being Rastus, not Rastas. So much that we thought those were our natural names, but they didn't think of it as an insult. It was just the way they thought about us. One afternoon in 1931, when Wilfred, Hilda, Filbert, and I came home, my mother and father were having one of their arguments. They were having one of their arguments. There had lately been a lot of tension around the house because of Black Legion threats. Anyway, my father had taken one of the rabbits, which we were raising, and ordered my mother to cook it. We raised rabbits, but sold them to white folks. My father had taken a rabbit from the rabbit pen. He pulled off the rabbit's head. Dang. He was so strong he needed no knife to behead chickens or rabbits. With one twist of his big black hands, he simply twisted off the head and threw the bleeding neck thing back at my mother's feet. Ugh. My mother was crying, no doubt. She started to skin the rabbit, preparatory to cooking it. But my father was so angry, he slammed on out of the front door and started walking up the road toward town. It was then that my mother had this vision. She had always been a strange woman in this sense, and had always had a strong sense of, and had always had a, she had always been a strange woman in this sense, and had always had a strong intuition of things about to happen. Oh, shoot, I got to make an adjustment here. I see something that just went wrong. Excusez-moi. Excusez-moi. Let me see what happened here. Okay. All right, I see what happened here. Let me skip ahead. I had this whole thing set, and it went and reset it. Huh. Now that's odd. Okay, so I'm going to have to go over there. Okay. Now we're back on track. Sorry about that. Hope that didn't interrupt the feed too badly. I know it did. Okay. Now what did it do? Hope it didn't just do that. Okay, well, we'll find out here in a minute. All right. It was then that my mother had this vision. She'd always been a strange woman in this sense, and had always had a strong intuition of things about to happen. And most of her children are the same way, I think. When something is about to happen, I can feel something, sense something. I never have known something to happen that has caught me completely off guard except once. And that was when, years later, I discovered facts I couldn't believe about a man who, up until that discovery, I would gladly have given my life for. My father was well up the road when my mother ran screaming out onto the porch. "Early! Early!" she screamed his name. She clutched up her apron in one hand and ran down across the yard and into the road. My father turned around. He saw her. For some reason, considering how angry he had been when he left, he waved at her, but he kept on going. She told me later, my mother did, that she had had a vision of my father's end. All the rest of the afternoon, she was not herself, crying and nervous and upset. She finished cooking the rabbit and put the whole thing in the warmer part of the black stove. When my father was not back home by our bedtime, my mother hugged and clutched us. And we felt strange, not knowing what to do, because she had never acted like that. I remember waking up to the sound of my mother screaming again. When I scrambled out, I saw the police in the living room. They were trying to calm her down. She had snatched on her clothes to go with them, and all of us children who were staring knew, without anyone having to say it, that something terrible had happened to our father. My mother was taken by the police to the hospital and to a room where a sheet was over my father in a bed, and she wouldn't look. She was afraid to look. Probably it was wise that she didn't. My father's skull on one side was crushed in, I was told later. Negroes in Lansing have always whispered that he was attacked and then laid across some tracks. Okay, I see what's happening here. Wait a minute. Yeah, this thing is just like going on automatic here. Okay, now that's where we were. Let's see what happens here. And then laid across some tracks for a streetcar to run over him. His body was cut almost in half. He lived 2.5 hours in that condition. Negroes then were stronger than they are now, especially in Georgia Negroes. Negroes born in Georgia had to be strong, simply to survive. It was morning when we children at home got the word that he was dead. I was 6 years old. I can remember a vague commotion. The house filled up with people crying, saying bitterly that the white-black legion had finally gotten him. My mother was hysterical. In the bedroom, women were holding smelling salts under her nose. She was still hysterical at the funeral. I don't have a very clear memory of the funeral either. Oddly, the main thing I remember is that it wasn't in a church, and that surprised me since my father was a preacher, and I had been where he preached people's funerals in churches. But this was in a funeral home, and I remember that during the service, a big black fly came down and landed on my father's face, and Wilfred sprang up from his chair, and he shooed the fly away, and he came groping back to his chair. There were folding chairs for us to sit on, and the tears were streaming down his face. When we went by the casket, I remember that I thought that if I looked as if my father, that I thought that it looked as if my father's strong black face had been dusted with flour, and I wished they hadn't put on such a lot of it. Back in the big 4-room house, there were many visitors for another week or so. They were good friends of the family, such as the Lyons from Mason, 12 miles away, and the Walkers, McGuires, Liscos, the Greens, Randolphs, and the Turners, and others from Lansing, and a lot of people from other towns whom I had seen at the Garvey meetings. We children adjusted more easily than our mother did. We couldn't see as clearly as she did the trials that lay ahead. As the visitors tapered off, she became very concerned about collecting the 2 insurance policies that my father had always been proud he carried. He had always said that families should be protected in case of death. One policy apparently paid off without any problem, the smaller one. I don't know the amount of it. I would imagine it was not more than $1,000, and maybe half of that. But after that money came, and my mother had paid out a lot of it for the funeral and expenses, she began going into town and returning very upset. The company that had issued the bigger policy was balking at paying off. They were claiming that my father had committed suicide. Visitors came again, and there was bitter talk about white folks. How could my father bash himself in the head, then get down across the car tracks to be run over? So, there we were. My mother was 34 years old now, with no husband, no provider or protector to take care of her 8 children. But some kind of a family routine got going again, and for as long as the first insurance money lasted, we did okay. Wilfred, who was a pretty stable fellow, began to act older than his age. I think he had the sense to see, when the rest of us didn't, what was in the wind for us. He quietly quit school and went to town in search of work. He took any kind of job he could find, and he would come home dog tired in the evenings and give whatever he had made to my mother. Hilda, who had always been quiet too, attended to the babies. Filbert and I didn't contribute anything. We just fought all the time. Each other at home, and then at school, we would team up and fight white kids. Sometimes the fights would be racial in nature, but they might be about anything. Okay, and we're going to end right there because that's right down at the bottom of that page. Good place to end. I try to pick good spots so I can find them again when we return. So we still got a ways to go. We've got at least 2 more days just in that chapter. Not making a lot of progress, but we are laying out the basis of this story, because our lives are always based on our experiences. All of our lives are based on our experiences. And so what we experience in our youth has a great deal of impact on our adult lives. And knowing what Malcolm and his siblings and his mother went through really does set the stage for us as to what he did and his attitudes and his perspective on life much later in life. So we'll be continuing on here. Tomorrow's Friday. Okay, so tomorrow what we're going to do, we're going to run specials on Saturday and Sunday. And you know how we do that. We'll be posting up some videos where you'll be able to get a broad overview of somebody else's perspective. No, you know what? We're not going to give you a broad overview of Malcolm's life. What we're going to do videos, because I already got them set up. We're going to show videos, put up a playlist, and it'll have videos on it of Malcolm X actually speaking. So again, we'll be able to hear about from his own lips what his perspective is. And that's the whole purpose of what we've been doing here, is to talk about Malcolm X from his perspective as much as possible. So we'll do that tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday. And then Monday morning, we'll be back right here reading more from the autobiography of Malcolm X, otherwise known as Malcolm Little. Don't forget to join us tonight as we continue to read from the book March, Book 1, the story of John Lewis and how he got involved with the civil rights struggle. That'll be something that, you can have all the family participate in, the youth, because we're reading from a graphic novel. First time we're doing a graphic novel. Actually, it's the first time we're doing a graphic novel, and the first time we're reading a story with images attached to it. So 2 firsts for us in this month of May. I would say the merry month of May, because this is the month Malcolm X was born in. May 19, 1925. We're getting ready to celebrate his 96th Earth Day. 96th Earth Day on May 19. So meanwhile, as we close out here, don't forget to go ahead and give us a like. If you've seen us on Facebook, give us a thumbs up. If you've seen us on YouTube, and then take that one more step. Go ahead and post up a recurring donation. The link is directly below. You know where it is. You know where to go. All we're asking for is just a little bit of dough. Peace out, y'all.